place for that, and I believe I spoke to you after that. Horrific, those murders. And I'm so sorry that happened.
March 4th, 2025, 5:47 a.m. Philadelphia. Federal agents converge on a 2-story row house in Kensington. Body armor. Battering ram. The door splinters inward. Inside, Marcus Ghost Williams is still sleeping. Within 90 seconds, he's face down on hardwood flooring, hands zip-tied behind his back. The agents find what they expected: cash, firearms, narcotics packaged for distribution. What they didn't expect was the ledger. Handwritten. Meticulous. Names, territories, payment schedules, not just for Philadelphia, for 5 states. This isn't a drug bust. It's the opening move in the largest coordinated gang takedown in American law enforcement history. By noon that same day, 167 suspected gang leaders would be in federal custody across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. Operation Silent Thunder, 18 months in development, had just detonated across the Eastern Seaboard. The FBI didn't announce it immediately. They wanted every door kicked in, every target secured, before word spread through encrypted channels and burn phones. Radio silence until the last arrest warrant was executed. The scale was unprecedented. Not 167 random gang members, 167 leaders, shot callers, territory commanders. The organizational infrastructure of criminal enterprises that had operated with impunity for years, sometimes decades. The investigation nobody saw coming. It started with a murder in Baltimore. August 2023. A 19-year-old named Jamal Richards gunned down outside a convenience store on East Monument Street. Routine gang violence, according to initial reports. The kind of killing that generates a 3-paragraph article in the local section and then disappears into the statistical void. But Richard's phone survived. And on that phone, federal investigators discovered something that changed everything. A network. Not a social network. An organizational chart. Richards wasn't just a street soldier. He was a logistics coordinator for a distribution operation spanning 3 cities. His contacts revealed supplier relationships, territory agreements, and something more disturbing: coordination between supposedly rival gangs. Groups that were supposed to be killing each other over corner territories were actually operating under a mutual non-aggression pact, dividing markets like corporate franchises. The FBI's Safe Streets Task Force took over. What began as a single homicide investigation metastasized into RICO conspiracy charges against criminal organizations that had evolved far beyond traditional gang structures. These weren't kids spray painting walls and fighting over sneakers. These were disciplined criminal enterprises with hierarchies, revenue streams, and strategic planning. Special Agent Michael Torres led the task force. 23 years with the Bureau. Veteran of organized crime investigations in Chicago and Los Angeles. He'd seen gang evolution before, but nothing like this. We were tracking operations that generated 7-figure annual revenues, Torres stated during the press conference following the arrests. Sophisticated money laundering. Interstate trafficking networks. Investment in legitimate businesses for cover. This wasn't street crime. This was organized crime. The investigation expanded in concentric circles. Each phone seized led to 5 more targets. Each financial record revealed 10 more connections. Wiretaps captured conversations about territory management, conflict resolution, and revenue optimization. The task force grew from 12 agents to over 200, pulling resources from FBI field offices across 5 states, ATF tactical units, DIA intelligence analysts, and local police departments. They identified 167 individuals who met specific criteria: leadership roles within identified criminal organizations, involvement in violent crimes or narcotics trafficking, interstate criminal activity, and evidence sufficient for federal prosecution. Not the entire membership of these gangs, just the command structure. Remove the generals, the theory went, and the armies collapse into chaos. The evidence mountain. 18 months of surveillance generated documentation that filled 3 secure server rooms. over 40,000 hours of wiretap recordings, financial records tracing $127 million in suspected criminal proceeds, forensic analysis linking suspects to 17 unsolved homicides, ballistic evidence connecting seized firearms to shootings across 4 states, text messages, encrypted chats, social media posts, cataloging criminal activity with the casual arrogance of people who believed they operated beyond law enforcement reach. The financial investigation alone required 47 forensic accountants, cash businesses laundering drug money, shell corporations purchasing real estate, legitimate franchises, a barbershop chain, 2 car washes, a soul food restaurant serving as fronts for criminal revenue, bank accounts in names of relatives and girlfriends, structured deposits designed to avoid federal reporting requirements, cryptocurrency wallets transferring funds across borders. One suspect, Kevin K. Block Thompson, operated what investigators called the McDonald's franchise model for drug distribution. Territory was divided into zones. Each zone had a manager. Each manager oversaw street-level dealers. Product was pre-packaged. Pricing was standardized. Quality control was enforced. Revenue flowed upward through the hierarchy. Thompson personally cleared $1.2 million annually, according to seized financial records. He drove a Mercedes, owned a waterfront condo in Ocean City, took vacations to Dubai. On paper, he was a music producer. The weapons cache was staggering. Federal agents seized 412 firearms during the coordinated raids. Handguns, assault rifles, shotguns, 73 of them modified for fully automatic fire. Ammunition stockpiles sufficient to supply a small military unit. 3 improvised explosive devices, body armor, night vision equipment. This wasn't self-defense. This was preparation for warfare. The coordination challenge, arresting 167 people simultaneously across 5 states, required military-level logistics. The FBI established a command center in Quantico. Every field office involved synchronized their operations down to the minute. Tactical teams rehearsed entries. Surveillance units confirmed target locations. Arrest warrants were sealed until the moment of execution to prevent leaks. The operation required 847 federal agents, 312 local police officers, and 89 tactical operators. Coordination with U.S. Marshals for fugitive apprehension. Liaison with DIA for narcotics expertise. ATF for weapons violations. Even the Coast Guard, monitoring potential escape routes via waterways around Baltimore Harbor. The timing was critical. Hit too early, and targets might not be home. Wait too late, and morning routines would scatter suspects across their territories, making simultaneous arrests impossible. The window was 5:45 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. Dawn raids, when people are still sleeping or just waking, before they're armed and mobile. Failure wasn't abstract. These were violent offenders with nothing to lose. 16 of the targets had prior arrests for attempted murder. 43 had weapons charges. 7 were suspects in contract killings. The raid teams prepared for armed resistance. 4 suspects attempted to flee. 3 barricaded themselves. 2 opened fire. Nobody died, though 5 suspects and 2 agents sustained injuries requiring hospitalization. By 8:00 a.m., 164 suspects were in custody. The remaining 3 were arrested within 48 hours as U.S. Marshals tracked them to locations in North Carolina and Georgia. The aftermath. The federal indictments read like dystopian fiction. RICO conspiracy, drug trafficking conspiracy, firearms violations, money laundering, murder in aid of racketeering, interstate criminal activity. Some defendants faced charges carrying mandatory life sentences. The prosecution strategy was aggressive. No plea deals for cooperation. No reduced sentences for lesser charges. The Department of Justice wanted maximum penalties as both punishment and deterrent. These individuals terrorized communities for years, stated U.S. Attorney Patricia Huang. They profited from addiction, violence, and fear. federal prison is where they belong. The community response was complicated. Relief, certainly. Parents who'd kept children indoors after dark, businesses that had paid protection money, residents who'd witnessed shootings and stayed silent out of fear, they expressed gratitude. But also skepticism. How many times had they seen arrests, only to watch new leaders fill the vacuum within weeks? This time, authorities argued, was different. This wasn't arresting street dealers. This was decapitating organizational leadership, seizing financial assets, disrupting supply chains, creating chaos within criminal enterprises that couldn't easily reconstitute command structures. The numbers supported that claim. In the 3 months following Operation Silent Thunder, violent crime dropped 23% in targeted neighborhoods across Philadelphia. Shootings decreased 31% in Baltimore. Open-air drug markets that had operated for years shut down as distribution networks collapsed. But federal officials acknowledged the victory was temporary without sustained effort. "We've removed 167 predators from our communities," Agent Torres stated. But the conditions that created these organizations, poverty, lack of opportunity, failed education systems, those remain. This operation bought time for those deeper solutions. It's not the end. It's a beginning. The human cost. The victims deserve mention. Not the arrested gang leaders, the real victims, like Carmen Rodriguez, whose son was killed in a territorial dispute over drug sales boundaries, like David Chen, whose convenience store was robbed 17 times before he finally closed the business, like Shanice Williams, whose nephew was recruited at 14 and murdered at 16 in a retaliatory shooting. They attended the press conference. They stood behind the federal officials as cameras clicked and reporters scribbled. Their presence was testimony to years of trauma, communities held hostage by violence, futures stolen by preventable tragedies. The financial cost exceeded $87 million. Investigation expenses, tactical operations, prosecutions, incarceration. Critics questioned whether those resources might have been better spent on education, job programs, drug treatment. Supporters argued that rule of law requires enforcement, that communities cannot heal while terror reigns, that those 167 individuals made choices that demanded accountability. The moral arithmetic is complicated. But the mathematics of violence are not. 17 homicides directly linked to the arrested individuals. 43 victims of non-fatal shootings. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, of lives damaged by distributed narcotics. Communities destabilized by sustained violence. Economic development choked by fear. What comes next? Trials are ongoing. Some defendants accepted plea agreements despite prosecution resistance, pleading guilty in exchange for reduced, though still substantial sentences. Others are fighting charges, exercising constitutional rights to jury trials. Legal proceedings will extend for years. The criminal organizations didn't disappear. Power vacuums create opportunities for ambitious successors. But the FBI continues surveillance, continues building cases, continues dismantling the networks that remain. Operation Silent Thunder established a model, patient investigation, comprehensive evidence gathering, coordinated execution that can be replicated. Other jurisdictions are watching. Chicago, Los Angeles, Houston. Cities grappling with entrenched gang violence and drug trafficking are studying the Eastern Seaboard takedown, considering whether similar operations could work in their regions. Federal funding for gang task forces increased following the operation's success. The 167 arrested individuals are currently housed in federal detention facilities, awaiting trial or serving sentences. Some will die in prison. Others will return to society as elderly men, decades from now, into communities they won't recognize. Their criminal enterprises, meanwhile, are being systematically dismantled through asset forfeiture proceedings that have already recovered $43 million in property, cash, and financial holdings. The warning. This operation succeeded because investigators were patient, because they built comprehensive cases rather than chasing quick arrests, because they coordinated across jurisdictions and agencies rather than competing for credit. because they targeted leadership rather than foot soldiers. But it required extraordinary resources. Federal task forces, 18 months of surveillance, nearly 1,000 law enforcement personnel. That level of commitment can't be sustained indefinitely across every affected community. The real question isn't whether Operation Silent Thunder was successful. It demonstrably was. The question is whether America will address the underlying conditions that make gang recruitment attractive to desperate young people with limited options. Until then, removing 167 leaders simply opens 167 positions for the next generation of predators. The fight continues. The communities remain vulnerable. The stakes remain life and death. This is what justice looks like when it finally arrives. The question is whether it came soon enough, and whether it will return when needed again.